And now the final airing, the history of the Sharon, the shaman. Ireland has its own history of reformation and prostitution, but none of them so much like the story of the O'Cassics of Scotland, Ireland, in the district of Dublin, Dublinshire, Ireland, Southern Ireland. It is believed that in the creation of the Irish Continentals, Sharon and her husband James, the mother and father creator of the Irish race, have multiple seclusions of sexual intercourse upon each other, in heart, in love, in trio, trying to confuse a child. On one occasion of this tenureship, it is believed that Sharon O'Cassic did become pregnant with a Janus, James's firstborn, or so the legend goes. That Sharon was birthing a child, fermented daughter. Sharon's birth of the daughter, Bess, is a drawn one, where it is believed that Bess was born, stillborn, and passed along nothing but an entranceway into her mother's Croatoan, Crotozones. It is believed that when Bess was born, stillborn, she had died within the septum area of her mother's womb, and then was pushed out into the open where she was already dead. Interfering into this was Aaron, or otherwise known as the Creator, the God, who witnessed his creations believing in sexuality, trying to get a child. How Sharon remained faithful while James wasn't, was something unto God, a dwelt, a dwelling. Sharon gave birth to Bess, who was dead. Sharon did not understand why Bess was not moving, was not breathing, bulged eyes upturned into her head, glossed. Sharon panicked, took the cerebral cord from within her clasp, and tried to resuscitate her dead-born child, Bess, her daughter, trying to resuscitate it while blowing into the umbilical cord, trying to resurrect her dead child. While this was happening and James was looking on, delingered, it is believed that during the time she was trying to resuscitate or generate her daughter Bess, she gave birth to a second child named Alec, who was the twin brother, now younger of the two, of the dead child Bess. And Alec survived, though remanded. She was not conscious, Sharon, of giving birth to Alec. Aleka. But one final blow on the umbilical cord into the subdom of Bess, while stretching out her eyes to the child, Alec, James's son, who had survived the birth, a dead birth, blew one more time into the umbilical cord of the breadth of Bess, and consummated a regurgitation of bile that entered into a unlooking Sharon, who had then swallowed the bile, and that regurgitated unto itself a virus that would consume Sharon's intestines. But whereas she felt the kiss of Bess was latexed, she tosses aside the baby Bess and transmutes her attention onto the breathing baby Alec, and denies restitution to the daughter Bess, leaving Bess dead on the ground of Ireland, and cajoles Alec and leaves Bess behind to Ireland. James, Sharon, and Alec, out of disgust of the kiss of death from Bess, subjugate themselves to another part of Ireland, of the Isle, and leave Bess behind without love. In this, Aaron, the creator, the God, curses the Ocasics and endures Sharon with the curse of eternity. And James was struck down to die. But because of the child and all of its invocations, Alec, the son that survived, chained the boy to the mother, Sharon, for a measure of warning that ye shall never bear child again. And this is the reminder of the child you died in infinitio. Boredom. And so James is killed, and Alec is spared, and Sharon is immortalized, morbidized. As Alec and Sharon go through life in Ireland, it is said that James Ocasic, in death disputes, visits his growing son Alec and instructs upon him the heifering, if you will, manly conservationism. Slut, in other words, a man's child, a man's slut, which Alec succeeds. Sharon is laid bare to searching for her child Bess, who has long been since dead for 20, 30 some odd years, where Alec is at his mother's breast, fornicating with other Ireland sounds, letterns, and progressing in the Institute of Intimation, enmity. Knowing that she'll never have children again, Sharon discords Alec, who goes about his father's might, and Sharon is left to roam the world without reticule. And she leaves behind her son Alec. Following on Sharon's story first, she roams around the Irish countryside and along the quays of the Black Sea in order to find her daughter Bess, whom she fears will be consumed by the draught of James the Draft. She searches all over Irish countryside and winds up harbored by the Black Sea, who, immortal as she is, and infinity as she is, travels the world over to try to find the body, not the soul or spirit, of the then disembobulated Bess, the drier of the two children. She searches continent to continent for the body of Bess, believes that Aaron, the creator, the god, had taken the body away as a pestilence to Sharon, to not let mother and child's bond be broken of birth. So then she seeks out God and challenges the descendants of that God, upon which she stumbles upon the heir turn of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. The heir turn, or Jesus, in his infinite might, resumes to thwart the advances of Sharon, but denies her suffering to be held on earth, and resumes her suffering to the God Almighty, the Aaron. And Jesus proclaims that he can put this poor soul out of misery, an eternal human, but says unto his Father, I have not known her sin of soul. She has no soul, he says to his Father. God, Aaron, then says unto his son Jesus, I shall give you a humanitarian's exemption and a humanitarian's attempt at putting out the misery of the 1,000 whatever hundred many years of Sharon, the infinite one. And so God says to make it a field, a ferd. God takes away the power of Jesus Christ, of the creation, the regenerator, the God sent, and keeps Jesus as whole human being for human against human. But not knowing the strength and resolve of Sharon throughout the centuries, where Christ was only 31 years of age in human years, the immortal against the immortal human, Jesus and Sharon. Jesus then subsides against the thirst of Sharon. Blow after blow, Jesus's cuts and gorges on his body and Sharon's bloodied eye. Jesus wins the battle against Sharon, who resumes that she cannot kill the Son of God, and even though knowing no spark of Jesus' power as Son of God, gives up on the hatred of God into the sorrowful note of the eternal sinner, because the punishment was that you killed my child, God. I cannot kill yours. And Jesus refrained. In another part of the history of James Okasik, James has been dead for many years, and Alec, the twin son of Bess, who died in stillbirth, goes through life with his father's charm, institutionalized intercourse, even with different females, and impregnates a Hethren, a bastion of his own likeness, but bearing no sign, no remorse, no morsel of his dead twin sister many years gone, Bess. One of the feminines whom he addressed as wife, Fife, F-I-T-H-E, his fifth wife, in other words, his midwife, comes across a woman named Eurys, who is a petalist in the ramifications of witchcraft. Eurys becomes one of the only of Alec Okasik's favorite partners, and she professes that she can bring back the dead in that James, so that father and son can reign over the world of the Christ, the born. Therefore, in one ceremony, Eurys and Alec are in the devots, and the witch, Eurys, constellations a quantum to align the dead spirit of James with the living body of Alec for the immortalization of the James child. God sees all this and does nothing, knowing that he can give his son Jesus back the sundry of God, and that if the plan of Eurys and Alec, Eurys's plan rather, succeeds, Jesus can put down James and Alec, son. So anyway, in the ceremony. Eurus calls upon the soul of James and patterns or pasteurizes Alec into a field, in the middle of the field, where she calls upon the Laterns, known as the Perennial Five, the guardians of the dark mass, the black sod, the devil's heart, in other words, believed to be thrown out of heaven and landing in the ocean, now the Atlantic, the Dead Sea. It is believed that Eurus dined the spirits of the Perennial Five, the elders of the Laterns, the witches, into divining the body of Alec to open up his scalp in order to ensue the soul of James the father, his father, to imbibe the soul of James into the body of Alec for an omnipotence. And that is how it went. Eurus conjures the Perennial Five, the dark arts, and they summon the soul of James, and James is ready to come. It is believed that after this one, James will be avenged of gods killing him for bearing fruitlessness in the stillborn Bess, who abandoned the child. Eurus is behind a squatting Alec with her nail scratches open a blemish on the scalp, the forehead of Alec, and the Perennial Five move circularly in order to take the soul of James, now above the sun, the wakeless sun, and putting it into the scar of Alec. But something goes wrong. The whole entire spirit of James goes into the son, Alec. And once Eurus sees the formations of James's face cruising down into the body of a warmed Alec, the son, Eurus is scared that her first attempt of bewitching is going to be successful, and knowing the art of Alec of fathering, farther ending, is afraid that what the evil will do through Alec will destroy her, the giver of the sound. So in order to stop her ceremony, Eurus takes a clamor and strikes around the same scar, the same blemish along Alec's head, the Perennial Five driving the soul of their pestists into James, into Alec, and she takes up a rock, a shell, a Pilatus, and strikes Alec over the head thereby cracking open Alec's head, barging out the spirit of James, and killing off the connections of the perennial Judascent Five, and killing the vesicle of Alec. Eurus kills the vessel of the perennial Five and their servor, James O'Cassack. Eurus then uses the same pock shell, if you will, and slices her own neck, because if the spirit of James can invest into the lifeless body of Alec, imagine what it could do to a woman, a nun. So then the only contact between the perennial Five and Alec kills herself of her first ceremony, the Behethron, the witching order of resurrection, and it is stopped. Going back into time, into the 1800s, after the birth and death of Jesus Christ, Cyrus Mariner Wakefield, a parson from Scotland, settles down into an Irish settlement known as Wakefield, Massachusetts in 1824, and careers himself into a life ship building of a centennial, not perennial, not to be confused, centennial settlement in order to bring about ritualistic conservancy into the world of mechanized law. He becomes the Mekarch of the land. Wakefield is from Scotland, the Benevolent of Ireland, and knows the story of James very well. So what Wakefield attempts to do is to, as legend has it, is to erect a temple, a now gazebo in the center, the heart of Wakefield, Massachusetts, to erect a temple in order to praise the art of solitude and impotence into the heart of James, to keep it from ever returning to the world of life, either through a dead soul, a dead body, a dead spirit, or a dead womb, I will say. It then goes to show that Wakefield did care about the grieving Sharon, whom Wakefield had never seen himself. In 1848, his wife dies of, let me think, it will be sarcoma, surrealism, and it is said that one of the outsiders who stumble into the settlement of Wakefield, Massachusetts, tries to bless the dead, we'll say Anne of Wakefield, the dead wife, and Wakefield knows Eurus and says to Eurus, "Why hast thou not severed?" In other words, why didn't you die? You slit your throat. It's all in the legend. And yet you come here to curse my wife and open her unto you, Shaylin. And in my temple I have my resurrection, the Jesus child, even though Wakefield and Ian did not have a child of their own. Ian was, as Sharon became after the birth of the twins, sterilized. You will not make a baby of men. Therefore, Wakefield confronts Eurus in a battle, and in singular gesticulation, Eurus grabs the crotch of Wakefield and divorges his testicles, thereby leaving him to bleed to death through his mounds, say. And Eurus laughs, and after centuries of banishment, finally cracks open her scar around her neck, and she too bleeds, and the blood of Eurus McGowan, the blood of Bess, conforms with the blood of the parson, the mariner, Wakefield, and it looks to be a matching of the two bloodstreams, but Wakefield is too resolved in his Christianship, his parsonship, his Mormon, to allow the blood of Eurus to defeat him, and then his blood only carouses the blood of Eurus. Therefore, you have a dead Mormon and a dead apothecary known as Uduk, the Yeti, the blood child, and all it was a matter of blood. Veering into 1922, into the heart of Chelsea, Massachusetts, same story. Wakefield had erected a Haven market in Chelsea, knowing that he could trade with the Atlantic, by the Atlantic, for it being a sailorman, a mariner, a Mormon, a seafaring parson, had returned back to Wakefield when Eurus happened upon a dying in Wakefield. The market was still open in Chelsea when the Scottish reformists, the Freelings of the 1920s, entered into Massachusetts from the Sound and had settled into Chelsea, bearing the scrolls of the Wakefield parentship, the hood, the parenthood, and it was not certain as if the Freelings were of a relation in Scotland to Cyrus Wakefield. To finish the story, the Freelings' mother and father had a daughter named Carol Ann. The armistice, the root of the strength of the Freeling family, and they moved into the market, the Haven House of Wakefield, century after Wakefield was killed by the then Eurus. It is believed that in the building in which I am living now in Chelsea Square is where the Freelings, along with the child army, the child, how would you put it, mercenary Carol Ann, in other words, the child army Carol Ann, was moved into the house on Hancock Street, then Harold, in Chelsea, Massachusetts now here. And she had come in at the age of 12, opting puberty, and they moved into the Haven House. And while she was becoming of age as a woman, she had forgotten the mutings, the diminutions of Eurus, who had no children, but had the hatred of the Irish. And Scotland, Wales is the Irish part of England. Wales, which the Freelings were. Carol Ann was visited upon by James through the mingling of the Bodices, the Bodices of Eurus, who had visited the Haven while Wakefield was alive, the dead Eurus. And she had left behind a marker of a pinky of hers, left behind in the building now on Hancock Street, the Haven of Wakefield, to murder any descendants or any kindred spirits of Wakefield wherever he might have made homes. Carol Ann was visited upon the James, was molested and raped for 2 years, and nobody would ever believe the stories of the self-inflicted cuts, of the markings of the children upon the thighs of the then child army. It was believed in Chelsea law that the father would be killed even though it could not be proven that he was the one attacking the child, Carol Ann. And since the mother was Christian, a Mormon from Wales, it was believed that she would be penalized by life imprisonment for allowing the father to attack the child. James was the child. To finish the story of this house, James visited upon Carol Ann, and she had no guidance. She couldn't go to her father, who feared the law of the Welsh of Chelsea and did not want to involve his wife, the Bethany of Devonshire, Scotland, and decided to let the daughter be attacked by the unknown entity, the unknown spirit that was James. James the demon seed. It is believed that James hardened into a physical form enough to seminate the developing ovaries of Carol Ann Freeling and visited upon the daughter to ignite the search of the then Cyrus Mariner Wakefield, dead since 1848 AD. Carol Ann became pregnant, resurrected the child, had a cramping of the scrotum in the woman, and it was said that because she felt like she was giving birth, there was air inside her her coccyx, her sensory bones. It was said that the air, which was not a fetus, broke open her coccyx, her cervical area, and in one final scrit broke her coccyx, and her laden broke open, and because of the pain she passed out and died. And it was said that in the deliverance effects there was in Carol Ann's cervix a single drop of sperm, F9, from the rapist, James Ocasek Higgins McGowan, Eurus's father-in-law and lover. Peace.